I am surprised that they never informed me or my divisional director. So that's the only comment I can make. I really don't know why they didn't.
When the former head of nursing for critical care was finally told, she says she felt reassured by the unit manager, Arian Powell.
She said Lucy Letby does everything by the book. She follows policy and procedure to the letter. But that gave me some reassurance because obviously the unit manager was working really closely with Lucy Letby at the time.
The head of nursing and the unit manager were then asked to produce this assurance document in response to the consultant's concerns. Now, the top line reads, "There is no evidence whatsoever against Lucy Letby other than coincidence."
Just because a senior healthcare professional requests the removal of a nurse, there has to be sound reason, and they weren't giving me anything.
Was it not enough for them to say she is always there when things go wrong?
Well, they didn't say that to me on that afternoon. All they kept saying is they had concerns with their clinical practice. The thematic review didn't come up with anything, and I don't recall even the subsequent internal investigations and the external ones that the executive team had commissioned. There was no factual evidence solely against Lucy Letby. However, I think it's important to say, if they'd have been more vociferous on that Friday afternoon and demanded a meeting with the executive team, with myself as head of nursing, with the divisional director, with the safeguarding team, we would have all got together.
But from their point of view, they've been asking for meetings, and you know, in one case it took 3 months for a meeting to happen. So from their point of view, they're thinking, possibly we don't have time for any more meetings. We need to get Lucy Letby off the ward.
But then why not share? Why not give me some more evidence? Why not? Bear in mind, I've not been party to any of those conversations they alleged they'd had with the executive team. Why not sit me down and not just demand?
Dr. Breary called a senior hospital manager. He asked her to stop Lucy Letby working. The manager refused.
I challenged her. I said, well, are you saying that you're making this decision against the wishes of 7 consultant paediatricians? And she said yes. And I said, well, if you're making this decision, are you taking responsibility for anything that might happen tomorrow to any other of our babies? And she said yes. And the phone call stopped shortly afterwards.
At no point did I say I would take responsibility for any further incidents on a neonatal unit. Why would I?
Lucy Letby's removed from the ward in 2016. It takes another year before they get the police involved. Why did it take them so long?
To be fair to the executive team, you know, they commissioned a number of investigations. I think they were trying to find something to be able to go to the police with, I'm assuming. It's something that they'd have to be asked why they didn't escalate quicker.
I mean, it's a big thing, isn't it? Going to the police saying, we think potentially there's somebody who's murdered babies on the ward. Were they worried about reputational damage?
I really can't comment. I think that's a question that needs to be asked of them.
You supported Lucy Letby for 2 years when she was taken off the unit.
Yes.
During that time, you saw her really upset. You felt that because of the way she was acting, that she must be innocent, and yet now she's been found guilty in a court of law.
If I think back to all the times when I have seen her really, really upset, I wouldn't say hysterical, but really upset, then I would think that how can somebody continually present themselves in that way on a near weekly basis for 2 years? I find that really difficult, and I think, oh my gosh, would she have been that good? At acting. As soon as Lucy had been removed, although obviously we weren't allowed to talk about why and all the rest of it, because people had some idea. My first job as I went in every morning on shift was to check A&E, and the second thing was to check the neonatal unit, because it changed the dynamics on that unit. Awful.
Tell me about that then.
It made everybody stressed, and we'd never dealt with anything like this before, none of us. It was new territory for everybody concerned. We do need to look at our practices and our decision making and the way we report things. All those sort of things I think will need looking at.
Do you feel you personally could have done anything differently?
I think if I'd have been given a little bit more information, if it had been inferred that insulin was being used or anything, but neither Ravi Jairam or Steve Breary gave me anything other than they were concerned about her clinical practice. And yes, you know, as a senior nurse in the organisation, we have the authority to exclude people, remove them. Of course we do. And I think I would have acted differently.
What has to happen now?
We need an inquiry immediately, because it's not just lessons learnt for all of us at the Countess of Chester Hospital. This is lessons learnt nationally and worldwide, because it's such an awful thing to happen. God forbid it, you know, anything like this happens to anybody else. She was just looking at me as if to say, why? Her mantra was, I'm not going to be forced out of the job I love. I've done nothing wrong. And she kept saying this. She never changed that mantra.